Awesome. We are here with Sallie Guillory, communications expert. I want to ask you a few questions, Sally. Thank you so much for taking time. Thank you for being on the second chair team. Like everything has leveled up since you started helping us out. But one of the questions that we get all the time that I want to ask you is, what's the first thing you would say to somebody trying to start like an online social media strategy? Not necessarily a live stream. For a lot of churches that we work with want to do live stream services. That's great. That might be something separate, but something, Monday through Saturday, what would be your first steps for churches, businesses, nonprofits that are trying to start a social media strategy?
Yeah, Tim, what I would probably say the very first thing is shifting our mindset to looking at social media not as a billboard to project out what we're trying to portray. Like if I'm a church, I'm not using my first thing is shifting the mindset of like, this is not for me to announce. We got a youth group on Wednesday night. We have women's night Thursday night. Come to our fall fest on Saturday. If I'm a business, it's not, hey, look what we offer. These are our packages. This is our, and I would shift that into thinking all of my content now is how can I serve my customer? So if I'm a business, I'm going, okay, if I'm a business, I'm a real estate agent, let's say, and I'm going, people are trying to buy homes and sell homes. What kind of helpful content? What do they need to know to be able to sell their home? If I'm a church and I know that I'm trying to reach lost people in my city, I'm asking myself, what kind of questions are lost people asking? What is God? What is this whole Jesus thing? What does it mean when something happens in the news? What is a biblical perspective of this? So if I'm a pastor or a church leader, I can get on my iPhone and record a 60-second video going, hey, I know you guys just heard about this in the news. Let me explain what this means as Christians. If it's I'm trying to reach young people in my community, I may go after the parents and get my youth pastor on there and say, hey, parents, these are three things that as we're dealing with young people, this is what we've seen effective in communicating with them. So I think that's the number one thing is, and any content like that is good. You can use your iPhone, you can create, there's endless possibilities, but that is the number one thing is every post, instead of promoting my church or my business, my mindset is now, how can I help the customer?
It's so good. It reminded me of two things when you're saying that. First, I was driving through the country in North Carolina one day. This is years ago. And there was a guy with a megaphone on a corner of like a state highway and a country road at a church, but just with a megaphone. I'm guessing doing like street corner prophet stuff, just yet like yelling in times. Not even in a busy section where people are walking by, like you're literally driving 70 miles an hour down the road. I'm thinking no one even knows what you're saying. And as you're saying, you throw out announcements, you throw out this, you throw out that, like it reminded me of the guy with the megaphone. Great intentions, but no one can hear what you say because of all the things that are going on. So shifting that from just shouting with a megaphone to how can I help people? It goes from sometimes fishing with a very large net that you're not going to catch anything to maybe fishing with a hook in some smaller environments. But the second thing is, it seems like you have a even with us, like you'll have a schedule of things that are consistent, but then there's some things that just pop up here and there. And it's almost like for me, it's daunting if I say, okay, man, I need to come up with 365 days worth of content. Like maybe come up with some scheduled things. Like you can look at a calendar and see Easter's coming or Fourth of July is coming. If you're in business, you know you have sales, you know you have seasons of things. You can plan and prepare that. But also as events come up and things come up, or you get an idea while you're driving down the road, it doesn't hurt not to have it perfect, but just to pull over and do a quick 30-second video of that stuff. That's great. You're such a good leader. I want to ask this other question. You're such a good leader, and I've followed you for years on this. And you've done so many different things. This is what I say about great leaders. It's not just a great leader can be a basketball coach, you're a basketball coach. A great leader can be in a church world. You've been in the church world. A great leader can be anything. If they can gather people, develop people, equip people, and let them run, uh, it does not have to be position. You don't even have to necessarily know the field that you're in, right? If you're a really, really good leader. So, how do you go from knowing the work that needs to be done to getting others to do that work? Like you may have the vision that you see for a certain graphic, but you may not have the skill or the competence of a great graphic designer. What do you do? That's a specific question, but it's a leadership principle. How do you go from knowing the work that needs to get done to getting other people to do the work that's in your brain, but might need to come out? Like what's your process in that?
Yeah, I think Dwight Eisenhower said, leadership is getting others to do the work that needs to be done and thinking it's their idea. And I think that's a big part of it. And I think it's helping people understand and show them a vision for themselves that maybe they don't even see for themselves. It's going, hey, we have this daunting task or this great vision. Maybe our pastor or our CEO gave our team this thing that we need to accomplish, and we're going to do it together. And it starts with language. It's changing the, hey, I need you to do this, to, hey, we get to do this together. And I think the old days of the command and control type leadership where you lead from position, those days are done. I mean, even for my generation and especially the upcoming generations, they don't want to be led like that. And I don't want to be led like that. We all want to feel like we have a part in the work that we're doing, that we have some decision making power, that we have some creativity power. And I think in order to get people to do that, they have to believe that, and it starts long before you ask them to do the task. I mean, you know this, Tim, you're a great leader and you're great at building relationships. And I think that's the number one thing is, as a leader, you need to always be in black with the people you're leading. And by that meaning, at any time when I'm making I know I have some capital in the bank that I can make because as a leader, I'm going to be making withdrawals all the time. And so I really think in order to get people to do that, it's letting them see. And I mean, when Jesus told the disciples, he said, hey, come follow me. I'm going to make you fishers of men. He gave them a vision. They had no idea they could be a fisher of men. They thought, oh, Peter's going, I'm out here catching my fish in the lake. And Jesus is like, no, 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 no. It's so much bigger, so much better. And Peter and the disciples are going, oh, wow. Like, you think I can do that? I get to be a part of that? Like, you're Jesus, the Son of Man. You want me? And I think as a leader, when we can create that vision for the people we're leading, you're going to get so much out of them. And they're going to get to exercise the skills and the gifts that God's given them, which are different than the skills and the gifts that God's given me.
That's so good. I love that principle you said, leading while in the black, making sure that you have more deposits than withdrawals, because the withdrawals are coming, right?
That's
So,
right.
we're recording this within a week of financial crisis with some banks. It's like
That's right.
you don't want those withdrawals to happen and there be a run on the bank and that not enough invested
No,
into it.
no, no.
That leadership principle kind of leads into another question I just had for you. I think I kind of knew the answers to some of the other questions that I asked just from our conversations. As I was thinking about it, thinking Sally is such a good change agent. Like everywhere you go, you're able to very quickly, without hurting people's feelings and creating too much drama, of creating change that needs to happen. My question was, is that something that you're naturally good at? Is that something you discovered that you're good at? Is that something you've learned how to do? Because everybody wants to create change. We all don't know how to necessarily do that without leaving a wake of destruction in our path back there. How did you discover? Maybe you didn't even realize that I just told you like that you're good at that. Like that's actually a gift that you have.
Yeah, I think all leaders have an ability to see what needs to be changed, right? No matter, I mean, we all can walk in a room and go, oh, that needs this team, whatever. But I think it's a different skill set to be able to make those changes and be the change agent. And I think looking back on my life, I think that has been a pattern of like whether it was a high school basketball player, I wanted to make a difference on my team as a coach and leading teams. And I think what's so important, I think John Maxwell says that leaders are hope dealers. That's what we do. We deal out hope. And I've been so fortunate, Tim. I've had so many great leaders that I've watched. Okay, what is it about them that I want to follow them? Why would I move across the country and go follow them? Why would I commit my life and work 20 all the time and early night or early mornings, late night for this person? What do they do? And I think the number one quality that I've seen in these great leaders that are change agents, and something I don't know if I've always done it successful, but I've tried to replicate this, is really seeing people. Like when walking in a room and looking at a team and going, I know we got to make all these changes. I know we need to do this, but I'm looking at John in that corner today. What kind of value can I add in John's life today? Okay. And I think when you add enough value to people, then those are the little things that I can control. And then those big things start to take care of themselves. And adding value to people, seeing them and having a really, really, to me, and this, people may disagree with this, when I'm hiring people, the EQ is way more important than the IQ, because I'll be honest with you, I'm not that smart. My IQ, there's a lot of smart people in the world have better IQ. But one thing I had a coach tell me one time, he said, every meeting you're in, Sallie, every room you're in, every situation you're in, try to have the person with the highest EQ. Always being, and I think as a leader, you've got to, I'm looking at my team. I've got to have the best EQ in the room and going, okay, I know we need to change that, but how can there's 20 people in here. I don't know what this person walked in here with. This person may be going through marriage problems, children's problems, financial problems, whatever it is. But if I can have an EQ and read those situations, and then I can start moving chess pieces and figuring out what needs to be changed. And again, we talked about this the last time, it all goes back to relationships and being in the black with people to be able to maneuver and make those. If I'm in the black with someone, I can make a change and make a hard ask and go, hey, what do you think about this? Instead of coming in going, hey, this is what, so many people want to change things and go, this is what we need to do. This is how we're doing it. Go. But I found that doesn't work. I've tried that. But when I can come into a room and say, hey guys, what are you seeing? And 90% of the time, this, Tim, teams that we're working with, when you and I consult with churches and consult with businesses, they know the solutions to the problems. All you and I and the second chair team is doing is going in, asking really good questions to get them to come to the answer. And then they get to do it and they get to be the heroes. And I think that's what great leaders do. That's what we want to do with our teams.
That's so good. Is the best change agent out there is the one that helps everybody else realize that they need to change, or
That's right.
encourages them to, because like you said, tension is, a lot of times people know that, or they feel
That's right.
it, they just don't know what to do next. And so saying it differently from a different voice sometimes is all that's needed, and all that's but I think you're right. Go back to relationships. I know these were questions for you, but like I'm having conversations with myself in my head about it. I went into an organization, and things were so dire. It was I mean, it was an Apple reseller in where you and I met, that city, and I mean, it was bad. It was bad. I mean, losing $360,000 a year for 3 years. I mean, that is a drain. And they had brought in several managers. I went in there straight from pastoral ministry. Went in there not knowing anything, but I liked Apple products. And within 6 weeks, we had turned it around and we're making a profit from losing $30,000 a month to making $10,000 a month. And I remember sitting with the owners at Sandra's Cafe one day, and they said, like, what did you do? We brought in actual managers, and like, and you're a pastor. What'd you do? And I was eating my chicken shawarma, And I
Mm,
just off the cuff said, I just pastored them because that's all I knew.
that's so good. Yeah.
But what that was like, as I've clarified what that meant, because that was not a good answer for business guys. Like, what, as I clarified it, it was if you turn around people and if you get people going in the right direction, it's amazing how quickly the organization
That's right.
follows.
That's
An
right.
organization is just made up of people. It's an inorganic, non-tangible entity, but made of
That's right.
people with feelings, traumas, hurts, hopes, all the stuff. And that's Jim Collins, get the people on the right seat on the bus.
That's
But it's
right.
really just if you get the people going in the direction of their calling, it's it's amazing how fast an organization will follow.
That's right.
Yeah.
Tim,
Man,
let me
this
ask
has
you
been
this.
so good. Yeah.
Let me ask you some questions. So as you're talking about this, and I love where we're going with this, walking in and you like you said, you were able to walk into that organization and see some of the problems and see the people. So I'm always picking your brain about this kind of stuff. You've consulted with so many churches and nonprofits and businesses. So when you walk into one of those places, what's really the first thing that you're looking for? Like what are kind of the pain points or the situations, like where are your eyes going the first time you walk into one of these places?
Yeah, I think maybe it's the way I'm built. Maybe it's just what I've learned. Maybe it's the uh, in between Gen X and millennial. I have a very analytical mind of saying, okay, like what's wrong with this situation? And so immediately you see the holes. Like immediately you say, okay, well that's a problem. That's a problem. That person's a problem. But as I've gone back and again clarified what it is that I'm actually looking for. There's few things that are kind of all at the same time, and it's kind of like being dealt a hand of cards. Like you're looking for what do I need to get rid of? What are some positives? What can I do with this? And so like immediately you need to find the good things. Like what is going well with this organization?
That's good.
Um, find if it's a business, what's the cash flow? Like what is like where are you getting your cash from? Even churches have to sometimes come down to, okay, like where is our cash flow? But any organization say, where's our momentum, right?
Mm,
Even the worst run organizations, there's some momentum somewhere. Okay. There's, as you said earlier about being in the red or being in the black, there's some being in the black, there's some deposits happening somewhere. But then where are the holes? What is sucking the momentum? Okay. Now, some of that may be very obvious. Some of it may not be. There may be some theft going on. There may be some soul sucking going on. There may be some leadership drain going on. Um, but yeah, where are the good things? Where's the inflow? Where's the momentum? And where's the outflow? What's the momentum sucker? Where are the holes? But the last thing, and this is the one that I think leaders don't look at, is where are the undeveloped people, talent, untapped
mm,
resources? Because in any place that you go, I truly believe you're going to have good things, you're going to have inflow, you're going to have a lot of outflow, but you're also going to have an undeveloped people and an untapped resource that has just been glossed
yeah.
over. It's usually young people, it's usually quiet people, it's usually the plotters that do the same thing day in and day out. We move right past those people and go to either the squeaky wheels or the people um, with that are extroverted, and we miss the people that are like the glue holding the organization together. Right, the glue's invisible, but it's holding the organization together. And I would say finding those and strengthening that group of people and really pouring into that group of people is probably the single most decider of whether or not that organization is going to change.
Yeah, Tim, when you're so good at finding those glue people, what's one thing that you found has been consistent in that glue person that if I'm a leader and I'm looking at my team and I'm going, man, Tim's right, I need to find that person. What am I looking for in that kind of underdeveloped person? Because I think
Who's
I mean that's so right.
who's the person that everyone's talking to that's not in leadership?
Mm, yeah.
It could
That's
be
a great point.
who's the person that is sharing the pregnancy news with for the first time. Like, I'm going
Yeah.
to let this person know I'm
Wow.
pregnant.
Yeah.
And it's because that person's going to share in joy, or that person's going to help. Hey, this is how that I'm going to tell you how to walk through this because management doesn't have a great maternity policy.
That's great.
It's the person, if you're in the military, it would be the sergeant, staff sergeant. They don't really have any leadership
Hmm.
position, but they are identified to lead the teams. And so it's just the
Right.
person that's doing that. A
That's
great book, I don't know
great.
if I have it on my shelf or not, is The Captain Class. It's a book all about sports dynasties. And it's usually not the MVP that's the captain. It's the person that's holding the whole organization together. And it's easy to identify the MVPs. It's a lot harder to
Yeah.
identify the people that are holding the thing together. But they're your biggest asset as a change agent because if you can get them on board, they're going to exponentially magnify your voice and your culture.
That's right.
If you can't get them on board, there is nothing you can do to change that organization.
That's
So yeah,
right.
finding that person, and that's what I would say. The person that everyone's talking to, that's not you. That's your
Yeah.
person.
And again, that goes back to relationships. Those people probably have great relationships
Huge
with
EQ, all that.
everyone on the team. Yeah, no, that's great. Tim, let me ask you this. I was with you a few weeks ago at a conference and I watched how you were interacting with some of the leaders and the pastors. And just as they were asking you questions and you're sharing things, and I've been in rooms with you before as you're pouring into other people. If you had some leaders from the country or in churches and businesses all together in one room, what is the one thing that you would tell to leader, no matter the size of the organization? It could be small church, small organization, big organization. What is the one thing that you would share with those leaders?
Yeah, I think everybody wants to grow. Everybody wants to multiply. Everybody wants to make things better. Um, a lot of people are saying empathy is the key for that. That's a relational awareness of things. Um, but I would say if you're not self-aware, the willingness to change will never be strong enough. You have to be aware of your own mess, and that's the leadership principle, but the self-leadership principle. You know, if uh, to be completely transparent, like I went into counseling trying to deal with stuff when I was 16, 17, 18 years old. It did not work because I was not ready to do the work. I didn't want to do the work. I didn't want to,
Mm,
I knew what, but I was, and there was an awareness there, but I was not there. It was not so deep in me. Like the awareness was not of the severity of the situation, of my anger, my frustration, my hurt, my trauma. I was aware of it. I wasn't aware of the depth of it or the
mhm.
consequences of that or what that would do to my relationships and all this other stuff. And it wasn't until I was in my mid 30s, 15, 20 years later, that the self-awareness of just how deep it went.
Yeah,
I was like, if I don't take care of this and address this on the inside, then everything on the outside is gonna I'm either gonna destroy it or it's gonna be worthless. And so I think your self-awareness has to be you have to be so open to it. You have to be open to growth on the inside. You have to be willing not to just ask yourself, what can I do to change or what areas can I change, but then actually act on that. And so
yeah,
the,
do the
the
work.
self-awareness is asking yourself these questions and being uncomfortable with it, right? Being uncomfortable with where we're at. I like to ask myself about 10 different questions in areas of life. How am I doing in my marriage? How am I doing in my finances? How am I doing in my fitness? All the way around about 10 areas. And then I ask myself on a scale of 1 to 4, how am I doing on that? Not a scale of 10, not 1 to 4. It's not 1 to 5 with a 3 because I would give myself a lot of threes. I want to
Yeah,
know, am I a 2
that's
or a
great.
3? Am I a little worse than I want to be or a little better than I want to be?
Yeah.
If I'm a four in that area, great. But I want to know right now, am I sub 50% or am I positive 50%? And maybe that's just because that's kind of my grades that I got in school. But I want to know, am I a little bit better, a little bit worse? But
Right.
I think you have to be relentless on self-awareness and not be afraid of it. Most leaders I know that are not self-aware really are self-aware. They're just afraid to touch it.
That's great.
Can't be
That's
afraid to
great.
touch it because everybody else sees it. Everybody
That's
else
right.
sees it, right?
No, that's
So
great. Tim, I think what you're saying is so important. I heard a quote one time that experience is not the best teacher, but evaluated experience is the best teacher. And so I love your plan to go back. How am I doing in my marriage? How am I doing in my finance? How am I doing? It's not just going through the year or saying I'm going to do this and we're going to have date night and we're going to do this with the kids, but evaluating, did I hit those marks? And I love your scale. And I think as we're entering to this post-COVID world that we're living in, and I mean, we've heard a million of these catchphrases, but we've never been this way before, and we've got to pivot, and it's a new world, and all of these things, and they're kind of goofy sayings, but they're right. And I think we all see the differences in our works and our families, and just even the last 4 or 5 months as I've been working with Second Chair and you and the rest of our team, and we've had these discussions of what does this mean for Second Chair and how can we serve these people. And so I want to ask you this, Tim. What do you see for the future of churches and nonprofits, and really how does what we do at Second Chair Solutions fit into that?
really good question. I think even though nothing is new, uh, there is a newness of it. We've never been in this
That's right.
situation because we've never been through a pandemic, global war, recession, depression, which all happened in 1918 to 1940, 1945. But with the technology that we do have, it speeds up everything. I mean, what took multiple generations to change culture now can change in 5 years. Okay, it's incredible. And so I actually saw a way out of ministry back in 2008 when I visited some global countries, and I realized people were doing ministry after they got home from work, and they loved it, right? They were doing only what they were supposed to be doing. And it made me realize that ministry in the Western context, in America, let's say, full-time ministry outside of being a senior pastor was a concept that was fairly new from 1970 on. Okay. So I thought that's probably not going to last, right?
Mm,
It's definitely not as old as the gospel. It's probably not going to last. And I saw people getting burned out left, right, and center. About 5, 6 years ago, I created Second Shared Solutions kind of with that concept in mind that the best way forward for not just churches, but it's going to be businesses, nonprofits, is this Uber of everything mindset. Like you
mm,
have a job, but maybe you have a side hustle. Maybe you have an interest. Maybe there's something else out there that you want to do over and above your career, And so my original intention with Second Chair was to actually come alongside and be a part-time worker in organizations on an executive level and help them through something, or maybe for organizations that were too small to have a full-time executive pastor or executive director, like get somebody with a lot of experience, pay them less, they work less hours, but they're more efficient and help you out than somebody that maybe can work full-time but doesn't have the experience, therefore they're not going to have the pay. And a lot of times organizations are settling for that. And so seeing that fractional work is really what kind of got me started about 5, 6 years ago. The COVID pandemic accelerated that fractional work with working from home and the hybrid culture, and it's just become more acceptable in our ecosystem. And so kind of created that system out of what was happening organizationally. And I also see this happens so much where an organization wants to hire, wants to go to the next level. And what they do is they don't have that on the inside. they don't take the time or they don't know how to develop a person on the inside. So what do? They go on the outside, grab XYZ person, bring them in. That person creates a lot of change, maybe has the confidence and experience, but they don't have the culture or the DNA.
Right.
So that person butts up against the culture and the DNA and either changes the culture and DNA and other people don't like that, so they leave, or that person leaves and the person you should have trained has left for greener pastures because they don't see a way out. They don't see a way up. If they climb up the ladder, you're just going to bring somebody and put them on top. And so seeing that and seeing that rollover, that transition, the turnover, all that stuff, I thought, why don't I just organize that chaos and say, we'll come in, be that transitory person, help you train up this person from the inside. Everybody knows from the beginning, we're not there to take over. We're there to guide, walk alongside, and then back off. You raise this person from the inside, they're more sustainable, they're more called, they're doing what God's called them to do. We back off, you're a stronger organization after we leave. It's not about us, it's not about me, it's not about Second Chair Solutions, it's not about Sallie. It's about your organization. I call it the Mary Poppins principle just because I think Mary Poppins was a babysitter for me growing up. Like literally, my mom would put the VHS tape in and walk away. Um, Man, she came in. I thought it was all about Mary Poppins. No, Mary Poppins came in, connected the family back together. And
Mhm.
at the end, she leaves. Nobody knows she's leaving.
Mm.
They're all out
That's
flying a
great.
kite, enjoying life together. Guys broke, hopefully that doesn't happen here, but they're flying a kite
Right.
and Mary Poppins leaves, or we call it the Irish exit, right? Like my desire for Second Chair Solutions is to make that organization better, but not centered on me, centered on the people that are there.
Yeah.
And then we fade away and you're stronger. And I think the more that organizations realize that fractional leadership, part-time leadership is okay. You're gonna do better hiring somebody for $20,000 part-time for a year um, than you would bring in somebody in and that person potentially ruining your organization and your
Yeah,
credibility.
absolutely.
I think it's a
Absolutely.
I think it's a huge step, and it's also something that I've seen happen globally. America is just catching up with it. So yeah, and amazingly enough, Second Share has grown from just me doing that to other people coming in. We have speakers, we have uh, communications people, we have people doing web design, we have people doing bookkeeping where we'll let all of your bookkeeping be outsourced to a trusted individual um, that does everything you want to be done, reporting, all that other stuff, and for far less than a full-time employee. And so again, the Uber of everything, like Uber is something that you can get. You can get an Uber to take you from here to there, or you can also become an Uber driver if you wanted to. And so as this fractional leadership idea has taken off in the States, several people that we've worked with, several people that we trust, they're now coming to us saying, hey, we want to be a part of Second Chair. And I say, hey, come on, if it's a fit, come on in. We want to see our main goal is to see these organizations do what God's called them to do and what their intended purpose is. And if that's bringing in other people alongside to do that, we love it. We're excited about it. So I see that just accelerating in the future as long as the organizations are aware of that
Right.
that a purposeful temporary hire is maybe way better of the next step than doing a full time, bringing somebody across the country hire. Then great, we want to be a part of that. We want to help out with that wherever we can.
Yeah, no, that's great, Tim. Hey, this has been great. I'm so excited we got to visit today, and I hope people will follow along. We want to do what we talked about at the beginning. We want to help people on social media and with anything that we can. Just sharing. Just you've been doing this for so long, and we have a great team of people working with us. So thank you, Tim, for just letting us all be a part of this and everything that you're doing for Second Chair Solutions.
Thank you, Sally.
All right.